That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we're going to go through and we're going to be looking at some buy low running backs. We have some trade deadlines approaching really soon. So we kind of got to make these moves, and we'll be talking about some expensive running backs. We'll be talking about some cheaper running backs a little bit later on in the video. But of course, before we get into it, we have to give away some Fantasy Flog Network hats. Our first winner, Cheekiest Clown. Thank you so much for always being out there in the live streams, my friend. And we also got Etienne, I believe that's how we say it. Maybe I'm confusing with Travis Etienne. Nonetheless, thank you, of course, for always supporting the channel and being a part of the flock. Once you win that Fantasy Flog Network hat, just send me that email ASAP with your address so I can get you that hat sent out. And also, if you want to just go get your Fantasy Flog Network hat, you don't have to just kind of hope that you get it by leaving a like and leaving a comment on the video, because of course, you can win it free that way. You could also just decide to support the channel on Patreon. When you decide to join the flock on Patreon, you get access to our rest of season rankings that are updated every single week. When you join the flock on Patreon, you get an in-depth podcast review of your own team with suggestions on how you maybe improve it for the fantasy football playoffs, or maybe how to get to the fantasy football playoffs. You get our dynasty rankings. You get to be in a dynasty league with us. There are so many cool things happening on Patreon. Make sure you go decide to join the flock over there. And yeah, that should be it. Let's go through and let's dive in to the running backs here. And we're going to start it off with someone that was very, very bad. Let's just put this out here. He was horrendous with pretty much the past month of games that he had, and then he got injured. And yeah, I'm going to be telling you to go trade for him now. Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has had 2 weeks so far this season with more than 10 fantasy points. Obviously, that is laughable here with Miles Sanders. When you are trading for Sanders, you're not giving a lot. This is a depth running back that we can look at and go, okay, maybe there are some reasons we should be going through and looking to trade for him. The first reason being, if we're looking at some of the matchups that he has upcoming, he's going to be going up against the Giants week 12. He's going to be going up against the Jets week 13. He also has the Giants in week 16 as well for the fantasy football playoffs. So the matchups aren't too bad. And another thing that I want to discuss here with Miles Sanders, and of course, I can't come out here and I can't be very confident with this play. You could easily trade for Miles Sanders and never start him again, but that doesn't necessarily matter too much when the price tag on Miles Sanders is going to be very low. Like if we can take a depth wide receiver and Darrell Williams and go move that combination for Miles Sanders, that's the type of trade that we're going to be looking for. And one of the reasons is if you're looking at Miles Sanders and what we had at the beginning part of the season, what was the role that Miles Sanders had? He was the first and second down grinder, where Kenneth Gainwell was actually coming in and he was taking away that usage on the third down. And that's kind of what was eating into Miles Sanders a ton at the beginning part of the season. Because let's remember what this Philadelphia Eagles offense looked like at the beginning part of the year. This was an offense that was just completely abandoning the run every chance that they had. And they just had Jalen Hurts going in, dropping back to pass. A ridiculous amount. Like if we're going to go through, we're going to look at games where Miles Sanders has played with the pass attempts for Jalen Hurts. 35, 23, 39, 48, 37, 26, 34. Miles Sanders gets hurt, and then all of a sudden it goes, okay, well, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, y'all are going to have to take over for Miles Sanders here. Y'all are going to be splitting the early down duties. What did we get from Jalen Hurts since then? 14 pass attempts, 17 pass attempts, and 23 pass attempts. He is averaging less than 20 pass attempts a game over the past 3 weeks with no Miles Sanders, clearly indicating that the Philadelphia Eagles have completely changed their mindset on how they're going through and how they're approaching just opposing defenses. And if you're going and looking at the workload that you've had from the combination of Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, keep in mind, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, these were running backs that could have taken away touches from Miles Sanders at the beginning part of the season, but they weren't getting snaps. No, you had Miles Sanders with that role. The issue is the role at the beginning part of the season wasn't worth anything. Like if you're going to go through and look at what Boston Scott has had with his touches per game, Boston Scott hasn't been hyper productive because he has been splitting this role 50-50 with Jordan Howard. And also these running backs aren't talented. Of course, we can throw that massive asterisk in there and maybe saying that's one reason they're not going to be extremely productive. But here with Boston Scott, I mean, he has had double-digit carries every single week over the past 3, 12 carries, 10 carries, 11 carries. Over the past 3 weeks, he's had essentially 180 rushing yards, averaging 60 rushing yards a game. You combine this with what we have had from Jordan Howard. I mean, Howard, he's averaging 13 fantasy points a game over the past 3 weeks. He himself, 12 carries, 17 carries. This is a running back that's been averaging, I mean, you guessed it, another 60, 70 rushing yards. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to just get every single one of these touches going over to Miles Sanders. I'm not coming out here and saying Miles Sanders is going to be averaging over 130 rushing yards a game. But I am saying that knowing that you aren't going to have to pay anything for him, and there is an outside chance that this team has fundamentally changed their offense, where they are going to be just trying to establish the run here and limiting Jalen Hurts. And now if we get Miles Sanders back healthy in a few weeks, all of a sudden we may have him with that early down role that he had at the beginning of the season. But as we've discussed, the reason Miles Sanders wasn't hyper productive is because you had Jalen Hurts dropping back to pass 48 times in a single game. It's a completely different offense now. Maybe Miles Sanders can actually give you some good production in decent matchups. Maybe we should be looking at the instance that we just had with Antonio Gibson coming back into Washington and going, okay, well, if Miles Sanders is able to return from injury, let's go through, let's trade for Sanders. Of course, we would rather wait to trade for Sanders until we get more news about this injury. Nonetheless, I think it's an intriguing spot to look at. Now, our next running back, I'm not going to have to convince too many people on this call. Let's go over and let's look at Austin Ekeler. Now with Ekeler, a completely different price point. Like, I'm not trying to say these running backs are in the same tier at all. With Austin Ekeler, you're going to be going out there and you're going to be willing to trade a wide receiver 1 and a running back 2 to get to Austin Ekeler, as this is an elite level running back. He didn't have that bad of a game this past game against the Minnesota Vikings, where he scored 15 fantasy points. The week prior, he scored 11 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, a big thing is Larry Roundtree actually vultures the rushing touchdown away from Austin Ekeler. But I really don't want to be worrying about this in the slightest. Like, if you're going to go through, if you're going to pull up what we have actually had from Ekeler so far this season, I mean, this has not been a running back that we have to worry about Larry Roundtree getting that consistent work in the red zone. We don't have to worry about Austin Ekeler losing out on those touchdown opportunities. With Ekeler here, this has been a running back that so far this season has had 9 touchdowns through 10 games. And at the same time, he's had 51 targets through, not 10 games, through 9 games here. He's had a touchdown a game. He's essentially also been averaging, what's 9, blah, blah, blah. I'd assume that's maybe he's averaging about 5 targets a game, 5.5 targets a game at the same time. Now, if you're going to be looking at the snaps played from Austin Ekeler this past week, with Austin Ekeler, this is a running back that came out here and he played 42 out of 59 snaps. You had very little Joshua Kelly. You had very little Larry Roundtree. With Larry Roundtree coming away with the rushing touchdown, maybe that opens up a small window for you to be going through and trading for Austin Ekeler. I know a lot of people think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have some great run defense. In reality, it's not that good of a run defense. The Broncos, you can be a little bit worried, but I would argue that the Steelers and the Broncos, you're more worried about their pass defense than rather what you would have in the run. And also, at the same time, you're looking at some of these late season matchups you have for Austin Ekeler once we get closer to the fantasy football playoffs. Week 14, you have him going up against the Giants. Week 15, you have the Chiefs. In week 16, you have the Houston Texans. So I think there are so many signs pointing to the fact that, Austin Ekeler, he's the running back 3 so far this season on a points per game basis in a full PPR format. If I had to rank him in my rest of season rankings, he's going to be right there. We said this 2 weeks ago, and I would love to know if you can still get this deal, because when I said it in a video 2 weeks ago, people laughed at us. But if you could go trade Alvin Kamara for Austin Ekeler right now, in my opinion, that's a no-brainer. With Austin Ekeler, he has essentially the same exact role. He has no Taysom Hill in his offense, and he's playing in a much better offense overall. So if we can buy low on Austin Ekeler, I'm definitely going to do it. It's just funny to bring him up right after Miles Sanders because, of course, they are just in 2 completely different tiers here. I would love to go get Ekeler. Now, our next running back is going to be someone that I will give you the warning. I am only bringing him up because I know some people will have their trade deadline this week, and it's your last time to trade for him. I think his value actually takes another hit in week 11. I think you can maybe trade for him at a lower price point a week from now. So if you can make trades a week from now in your league, you're not going to be looking to go through and trade for Saquon Barkley at this moment. But let's bring up Barkley here, given the fact that if you're going to be looking at how this is played out, let's remember with Saquon Barkley, Do not try to convince yourself that this is an injury-prone player that we need to be worried about having a higher risk for injury than anybody else. I understand that's the narrative around Saquon Barkley. Let's go through this. This is a running back that came into the season after a devastating knee injury where it tears his ACL last year, week 1. Then this season, he steps on a defender's foot, rolls his ankle. That can happen to anybody. Like, don't be assuming because with Saquon Barkley here, he had the knee injury at the beginning of last season, that he's more prone to rolling his ankle by maybe he doesn't look down when he walks. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know with Saquon Barkley. What I do know is Saquon Barkley was not placed on the IR after having that, remember, not high ankle sprain, low ankle sprain here, just a much better injury. And then you had him missing the Rams, the Panthers, the Chiefs, the Raiders. He has missed 4 games so far. And remember, you can get placed on the IR. He could have come back by now even if he got placed on the IR. So this kind of tells us that maybe they are just being extra cautious with Saquon Barkley. Now, it made a lot of sense to not play him against the Raiders in week 9, knowing that this is not a team that's playing for much given their record, but they win that game against the Raiders. So it is an intriguing spot now. I will say they have a brutal matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 11. So I'm kind of just setting myself up here for next week, where next week is the week where you go all in on trading for Saquon Barkley. I know Antonio Gibson just had a solid performance against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense in week 10. However, that's not going to be something you're expecting from the majority of other running backs. With Barkley, it's going to be a very tough spot. I think you trade for him going into the matchup that he'll have against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 12. Really, I'm having no hesitation to go and view Saquon Barkley as a low-end running back 1 going forward. So yeah, I mean, if your deadline ends this week, go get him before he plays the Buccaneers, and don't panic when he has a very bad game. He's going to have a very bad game. It's going to be a bad matchup where the defensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could just kind of manhandle this New York Giants offensive line. But then beyond that, I mean, you have some good matchups. You have the Eagles, the Dolphins. I mean, we know that you want to be attacking the Los Angeles Chargers run defense whenever you can. They also have the Chargers in week 14. So yeah, we will be betting on Barkley in the long term. Now let's go over to another running back that's going to be a little bit cheaper here. Let's go over to Kareem Hunt. Let's just continue to talk about these injured running backs. Now, y'all remember, whenever a running back gets injured, the worst time to go through and trade for that said player is the second that they suffer that injury. I mean, no, that's not what we're going to be looking to do at all. You kind of wait, play it out, and have them sit out for the solid month, have them sit out for the 5-week span, and then a week or 2 before they come back, that's when you trade for them. Because it's kind of funny that fantasy managers, I mean, the second that a player gets injured, they don't go, crap, I'm not going to have him for the next month. Let's just kind of sell what we can get now because I can't be taking a 0 on that roster spot for the next month. No, they don't think that way. They go, okay, well, what did Kareem Hunt give me? Kareem Hunt gave me 104 fantasy points through 6 weeks so far this season. Kareem Hunt was that low-end running back 1 before he came down. But what's funny is once you just start stacking up zeros after zeros after zeros after zeros, and I mean, that kind of gets to the psychology of the Kareem Hunt owner here, where they kind of forget what Kareem Hunt was at the beginning part of the season. And who Kareem Hunt was is a running back that was getting every single target out of the Cleveland Browns offense. And something I did not expect coming into the season, he was getting the usage, he was getting the involvement in the red zone. He was the goal line running back for the Cleveland Browns at the same time, essentially vulturing away all of the valuable touches from Nick Chubb in Cleveland. Or if you're going through this, 17 fantasy points against the Chiefs week 1. He has a down week against the Texans. It is what it is. 27 against the Bears, 16 against the Vikings, 26 against the Chargers, 10 against the Cardinals. And with the outside chance that Nick Chubb suffers an injury, we've already seen that Kareem Hunt can come out and Kareem Hunt can be a dominant running back 1. Just look at what you had with Dearness Johnson in the spot starts that you had with no Nick Chubb or no Kareem Hunt, and understanding how great that Cleveland Browns offensive line is. Even in a game where they get dominated by the New England Patriots, you know the starting running back for Cleveland is going to be giving you production just because it's going to be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Their run block efficiency is going to be at an elite range. For that reason, when Kareem Hunt's getting the valuable touches, when he's coming back in now, you're going to be buying him at a discounted price. I think it will be very intriguing. Now, let's go over to a player that's actually healthy. We'll get to one more injured player a little bit later on in the video, but let's go over to Leonard Fournette. Fournette had a fine week. I will definitely say that. Like, if you're looking at the fantasy points, Leonard Fournette came away. He was a high-end running back too. I mean, you're not necessarily upset with what you had with Leonard Fournette at all. I mean, he was the running back 15. I guess you can make the argument mid-running back too. But if you look at the underlying numbers here with Leonard Fournette, I think that they are extremely encouraging of what we may have going forward. This is a running back that actually had, 11 carries out of this backfield. If you're looking at the combination of Ronald Jones and Giovanni Bernard, they had 11 carries to 1 carry for Giovanni Bernard and Ronald Jones. And with Leonard Fournette, 9 targets compared to 3 from Giovanni Bernard and Ronald Jones. So Fournette still operating as the 3-down bell cow running back in one of the most productive offenses of football. Now, yes, this offense definitely did struggle this week, considering the fact that, Godwin clearly wasn't 100%, and at the same time, you have no Gronk, you have no Antonio Brown. Maybe we should have seen that this was going to be a much tougher spot for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have success. Nonetheless, this was one of the toughest matchups you can find at the running back position for Leonard Fournette, going up against a very good defensive front for Washington. Right now, Washington is 6th in the NFL against opposing running backs. And going back to week 8, the last time we saw Fournette, he also had a disappointing game there where he only scored 7 points against the New Orleans Saints. But it's been back-to-back brutal matchups with Leonard Fournette. They're about to get a lot better going forward, where he's going to be playing the Giants, the Colts, and the Falcons, where you can be excited about going through and expecting him to be that low-end mid-running back 1. Against the Giants this week, I wouldn't be surprised if I have Leonard Fournette ranked as my running back 6, running back 7. Now, going through these players, I honestly probably should have done a much better job of structuring this. We should have gone through with the most expensive players at the top and then just gone cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to kind of give a good idea of what you're going to be paying for these guys. Of course, if you ever have any questions with any of these players, you can leave them down in the comment section with any specific trades. We live stream every single night. I've live streamed for over 100 days in a row. Way over 100 days in a row at this point answering questions. So, of course, you can come out to a live stream, get any of your questions answered. And now our last running back, I'm going to be bringing him up because we had a lot of questions in the premiere. We had a lot of questions in that premiere live chat about Darrell Williams, what we may be able to expect with Darrell Williams now that you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back in. And I will tell you, Darrell Williams is going to go back to his usual role, 30 to 40% of the backfield snaps and touches here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire maybe all of a sudden is an intriguing buy low running back. Now, y'all remember, we called Clyde Edwards-Helaire an intriguing buy low running back after week 2. He comes out, has a couple games with over 100 yards rushing, and then you see Darrell Williams actually picking up his own role in this offense. We were saying to sell, cash out at a profit. Now we're back on buying Clyde Edwards-Helaire low because it sounds like CEH may be coming back for this game against the Dallas Cowboys. And a big thing that I want to get excited about with Clyde Edwards-Helaire here is all of a sudden, this Kansas City Chiefs offense looks like something we want a part of. I don't think anybody, if you are making this argument, I know he makes a couple of great plays. I know he gets the catch in the red zone there. I don't think you should be making the argument that Darrell Williams is a talented running back. I don't think you should be making the argument that a 26-year-old undrafted player that has never done anything in the NFL before is someone with a ton of talent. Now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire may go down as one of the worst picks, if not the worst pick in that 2020 NFL draft. But at the end of the day, he was a running back with pedigree. He was a running back that went in the first round. This team does have that investment into him. And we know that he is a more than capable receiving down running back. And if you're looking at the usage that we had from Darrell Williams in the receiving game over the past month, 4 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, 9 targets. He had over 100 receiving yards in this contest. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will have that role coming back in. Now, Darrell Williams is still going to be involved. Darrell Williams will still be seeing 30 to 40% of the backfield snaps and touches, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the main feature down running back here for Kansas City. And if this offense is getting back to what we had them as in 2018, 2019, 2020, the lead running back, whether or not he's talented or not, that's up for you to decide. I'm going to say neither of these running backs are talented. Just give me the player that's going to have the opportunity in the offense that's going to be hopefully as efficient as what we just saw with Mahomes going for 5 passing touchdowns. Yeah, you're not paying a lot for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You're not paying a lot for Miles Sanders. I know me putting these gross names on this list, you're going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, make a lot of people just hate it. But nonetheless, I can't come out here and tell you, oh, let's just only buy Austin Ekeler. Let's only buy Leonard Fournette. Let's only buy Saquon Barkley. I can't just tell you studs. We have to throw some gross names on here too, so you can get some cheaper options if those top end studs aren't available to you. And of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel and being a part of the flock. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, you could also consider joining the flock on Patreon. Over there on Patreon, we have our rest of season rankings, get an in-depth podcast breaking down your fantasy team when you join. Also get access to our group chat, get access to our dynasty rankings, get in the dynasty league with us. Helps out the channel a ton. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you and have a great day.